Hello everybody, my name is Nemo. Welcome back to the last episode of Building the Decks, or at least I think it's going to be the last one, because I don't think there's going to be any more DLC for this game. So, there's only one deck left. Some of you may have guessed what it is, some of you may not have. There's one deck I skipped doing deck build on for a very long time. And let's see if I can happen to land on that deck. Nope, not even close. Here it is. Goblins. I don't like this deck. I think it's too good for the metagame. I think it is too powerful. You hardly ever lose with this deck. I am somewhere in like 12.0 win-loss ratio with the deck myself, which is absolutely ridiculous compared to many of the other decks. The only thing that even gets anywhere near that is Mana Mastery, and everything else is like at 4 or 3. Of the most powerful decks are at like 4 or 3 win-loss ratio. So this deck is absolutely ridiculous. And I don't like it for that reason. And it's not that it's a dumb deck. I like the deck. I actually like the deck itself. I just don't like it in this metagame. I don't think it fits. It's too good. The deck is fun to play. There's a lot of tricks to the deck. And it's certainly not a brainless deck. It would have been amazing if there were other decks that were this powerful in the metagame as well to play against with this deck, because then it's fun. But since the other decks are all so much, well, not necessarily weaker, but just less consistent than this deck, that's why I hate this deck. That's why I don't like it. But I am a completionist. I'm going to complete all the deck builds. I'm going to do a deck build on this deck. But I saved it for last. So, take from there what you will. Call me a hypocrite if you think that I am one for doing the deck build, even though I hate the deck. It's fine. I want to finish it. So basically, last deck build, I'm gonna do it. So, here's the deck build on Goblin Gangland. 64 cards in the deck. This is a pure aggressive deck, and 25 lands is too much. 25 lands is too much in a purely aggressive deck. So, I went with 64 cards. The reason 64 instead of like 63, this is a little bit, like, this is more aggressive than Peacekeepers or Celestial Light, or at least my build of Celestial Light, where I run a lot of aggro creatures in Celestial Light. So those two decks, I also happen to think they had too much land in them and added the 61st card. In this one I went a little bit further than that and added 64 in total. And the reason for that is if you take one out, it's at 63. If you take one more out, it's at 61. So going from 61 to 63, that's one more card, but also one more land. So that doesn't help the ratios. It's actually worse than running 61 for ratios. So if you want to help it more, then you got to go to 64. And I think running it at 64, I've had a lot of success with the land count. I haven't played the deck that much though, because of course I hate the deck, like I already said. So, take from that what you will, but this is the land count that works for me from the small sampling of games I have played with this deck. Other than, of course, the first week of release, because I was totally just running this deck in Peacekeeper's first week of release. And, yeah, because I was just running for top 10 then. I made it, but anyways. Goblin Arsonist, just a really good card. This card was great in the previous game. It's great here. Even if they get rid of it, they're still taking 1 damage. Amazing. Run it. Goblin Bushwacker, insanely powerful, giving your guys haste and +1/+0. Like, it just comes in and gives them Battle Cry, and it attacks himself. And it's just 2 mana. Like, I run 4 cost creatures that do that in Collective Might. And this guy is just 2 mana. Ridiculous. Really good. Goblin Grenade. If you gotta finish them off, you gotta finish them off. Sometimes this card just... You thought you stabilized, you thought you were finally safe, you thought you had it, and out comes the Goblin Grenade and you're crying. Because, I mean, it's so ridiculous that this deck is so aggressive, and then even when you stabilize, they still have Goblin Grenade, and they can still finish you off anyway. And it's just stupid. Alright, sorry about that, slight intrusion there. I'm back. And I think I just handled the Goblin Grenade, so let's move on Goblin Guide, of course, insanely powerful. Haste 2/2 for 1 mana is really, really good. This is just incredible guy. And I'm glad there's only 2 of them in the deck, let me put it that way. Actually 2 is too much. So yeah, his drawback is that sometimes they get to draw a land. Not always a drawback, as you do get some information about their hand since the top card is revealed. And if you see them not getting lands, then, you know, I don't know. No, I guess that wouldn't work. But yeah, you do get some information about what cards they have. So it's not always a drawback, but it is card disadvantage, sort of. But you're attacking with a haste 2/2, so you don't really care about that too much. Because as long as they don't have the time to set up, you're winning anyways. Raging Goblin is 1/1 haste. He's slightly less powerful than Goblin Guide. But since there's not 4 Goblin Guides, we run 2 Raging Goblins, I guess. It's another 1-drop. And this one is haste. There's a few other 1-drops you could be running, like the Goblin Balloon Brigade or the Goblin Fire Slinger, but those don't have haste. So I prefer the Raging Goblin. It just gets in there the turn it's played. And these guys' abilities hardly ever matter. Hardly ever matter. So, moving on, we've got Shock, which of course you run. It's removal. Pretty good. And it can go to the face if needed. Ember Hauler, basically shock on legs. You sack it to shock something. And sometimes you get to get in there once or twice before you have to use his ability. And it's pretty good. So, there's plenty of cards in this deck that can give cards like this haste. So, quite good card, really. In fact, just really good card. I missed some 1-drops, so Smelt, you don't run it because you don't need to destroy artifacts with this deck. Because if you just kill the opponent before they can drop any artifacts, that's usually what happens. So, whatever, you don't need Smelt. But you could side it in, I guess, if there was like an artifact deck in the format and you were playing in like a championship and you went up against that, then you can side this in, but there's not, so there's really no need for the card, but it is a really good card though. 1 mana, just boop, gone, instant speed, really good, but not needed. Goblin Warstrike is pretty good, but I have another card that sort of performs the same purpose, so I guess we'll get to that. I'd rather run that card instead. Then there's Goblin Wardriver, which is absolutely ridiculous. Just ignore the protection from blue, and he's already amazing. But then you go up against the blue deck, and there's nothing they can do about him. He's ridiculous, just really, really good. Yeah, I mean, it's just so unfair against blue decks. It's just so unfair. When you're playing your crosswinds and you got your fog bank out and this guy comes out and you're like, well, I can't block that. I can't bounce it. I guess I lose. So yeah. Goblin Piker, just the 2/1 for 2 mana. That's not good enough. There's better options in this deck. It is too powerful for 2 mana, but so is Krenko's command, and that gives you multiple dudes, which with the buffs in this deck and all the the battle cry and stuff, it's better to have multiple dudes than 1 dude. Ring of Velkus, not needed. Haste is kind of irrelevant because most of your stuff has haste or gives your other guys haste. Like, it's not bad. Like I said, these guys are great because they have haste. But in a deck like this where most things already have haste, you don't use an equipment to give them haste. Like, that doesn't make sense. And then giving it +1/+1, that's too slow. No. And it's card disadvantage as well. This is not a dude. Warren Instigator, ridiculous. If this guy attacks even once and you get in with him, then you can just win the game out of that. When he drops the board, usually either they have to kill it, or they don't have anything to kill it. Or they have to kill something else and just their hand is so bad in comparison to what you're playing that they have to hope that this guy doesn't get anything for you. It's ridiculous. And because he has double strike, his ability triggers twice, which is just insane. And then the first time the ability triggers, you've dealt 1 damage with him, and you can get Goblin Chieftain on the board, which gives it +1/+1. And then the second time he attacks, he has the +1/+1 boost from the Goblin Chieftain. So he's going to do more damage with his second attack. So that's ridiculous. Nice combo there. Arms Dealer is free cost 1/1, but it has some good stuff. It can sack guys and kill guys, and it's pretty good in general. For now I'm running 2. Again, this is part of what I'm saying, is that I haven't played this deck that much yet. So I could definitely see myself taking out 1 or maybe even both Arms Dealers in the future. But for now he's done well for me, so decent. And you know, gets past those 4 toughness creatures that are designed to block this deck. Gempalm Incinerator is absolutely broken. Cycling for 2 and hitting them for as much as you want and drawing a card off of it is ridiculous. And then you have the option of playing this as a dude, but it's really, you almost never do that. Just the cycling ability is really good. But you have to remember that X is the number of goblins on the battlefield. I've definitely seen people forget that and think it deals like 2 damage, like shock, or I don't know, and fail to bring enough damage. So, yeah. I mean, worst case scenario, you've got nothing on the board. Now you've got a 2/1 at least. It's 3 mana 2/1, it's bad, but at least you've got something, and that's the worst case, the absolute worst case scenario. So, really good card. Goblin Artillery, free cost 1 free. Yeah, you basically get to get rid of stuff. Again, it's removal, and you can hit them in the face with it. You can continually tap him to deal 2 damage to target player, and there's nothing their blocking creatures can do about it. So it gives the deck a little bit more versatility, like the Arms Dealer does. Helps you get in that damage even when they do have that board state that you can't get past them. Goblin Chieftain, absolutely ridiculous. You run all of these. I mean, they're your lords, so you run them. Haste gives everything haste, gives everything +1/+1. Insane if you drop Krenko the turn following that, because Krenko with haste means that you just immediately get to pop his ability, and there's no coming back from that. If you're the opponent of that, then you know you just lost unless you can like drop Massacre Worm that turn. So yeah, amazing card. Goblin Warchief, he's the 4th Chieftain. He's a little bit worse because he doesn't give +1/+1. Making your spells 1 less to cast if they're goblin spells is not that important. Most of the stuff that's costs more than him is a goblin, but then there's some stuff that isn't, such as Clickslither. So there's actually 2 cards that aren't goblins, which this guy doesn't help with. So yeah, and it's kind of irrelevant because most of your spells are 1, 2, or 3 drops. But you could be playing multiple spells a turn, I guess, with him. Although usually your hand is pretty empty by the time you play him, so I don't know. Ballistic Shaman, he's a 2-for-1 guy, but he just isn't good enough for this deck. He's actually great. I love the guy, but this deck doesn't really need him. So, Goblin Assault makes all your dudes attack each turn available. That's not too terrible. Like, it is a drawback, but in this deck you probably want to be attacking that anyway. But there are certainly situations where that drawback hurts you. But the main reason I don't run it is because it's too slow as an enchantment that then starts making me, guys, I don't know, it's too slow. I can instead just kill them before I even get 2 or 3 guys out of Goblin Assault. So, Goblin Offensive, too expensive to make it worth it, and it rhymed. Awesome. But they certainly are offensive. That is. Goblin Rough Rider is just a bad creature. It's 3/2 for 3 mana. What is it even doing here? I don't know. It's just in here because it's a goblin, I guess. Although I do like the art, and I do like it that it's a Goblin Knight. Like that's funny. It's sort of an oxymoron, but it's kind of fun, I guess. But he's just not good. So, nah. 3 mana 2/2 dude that then when you have 8 mana. Wait, what? 8 mana with this deck? That's never gonna happen. No, that's not gonna happen. So he's a 2/2 for 3 mana. Yeah, I'm not playing that. Oops. No. And then even then, for 8 mana, he only gets your creatures +3/+0. Like, what? For 8 mana, I wish this guy gave them like +6/+6 and unblockable and trample, and I don't even unblockable and trample. What? But I don't even like it. It could give some kind of overrun effect. Then it would still be unplayable. Then there is Rummaging Goblin. This guy is decent. I've seen people have success with him. I don't think he's needed for the deck necessarily. I think the deck can be fast enough that you don't need to go for card advantage at all. But he is decent, and I can certainly see him work. The thing is though, sometimes you drop him instead of dropping like something that can actually kill them that turn, and then you're rummaging for the kill spell that you could have just played instead of him. I don't know. That's usually like, you know, usually it's okay because he does give you that kill spell, and you're fine still. But like I see that happening more often than I see his ability to discard like random lands or something and drawing more cards be useful to me. I'm playing an aggressive deck. I don't need card advantage. So, Squee Goblin Abob. It's just a 1/1 for free. Yeah, he comes back, but it's just a 1/1 for free. There's some combos you can do with him, which is sweet. Like Arms Dealer can use him. Yeah, Arms Dealer can use him. You can use him with the Siege Gang Commanders, and that is basically Clickslither can use him, and Voracious Dragon can use him. So take advantage of the fact that he comes back anyway. That's basically what I'm saying. But that's too slow. Like, I don't need to be that slow with this deck. This deck is way faster than that, than using combos like that. I can kill them before I need to do that. So whatever. Thunder Trash Elder is not a goblin. It devours my goblins, but it doesn't have haste, it doesn't have trample. So even if this guy becomes huge, he doesn't have trample. So, nope. And I have to sack goblins, which, you know, goblins are what make me win the game. And yeah, I know that sounds like hypocritic when I also have Clickslither in the deck, but I get to him. Battle. Oh, we are at 4 mana now. Alright, cool. We can get to Clickslither, so I can immediately compare the two. Awesome. So this guy does have haste, and he does have trample. And that's why he's better. Also, I mean, attacking with, let's just say you attack with this guy, right? This guy has to devour when you play him, whereas this guy can do it whenever he wants. And yes, it's until end of turn, but that doesn't matter if they're dead. You play this guy, and now they have to decide. Like, it makes blocking really, really difficult for the opponent, because unless they have a kill spell for this dude, they have to make sure that this guy doesn't just kill them by himself after he sacks all the goblins that you just blocked and brings lethal anyway. So it makes it tough for the opponent to deal with. And you don't have to use this ability. If they have mana open, if you can suspect they have a kill spell, you don't have to use this ability. It's still a free with haste for 4. And that's still pretty decent. I know it's not amazing, but it's still pretty decent. And once they tap out, you're going to get them. And they will tap out because you're playing goblins. And you have such a much better board position at the start of the game that they have to play their dudes. They can't not play their dudes. They can't like just keep mana open for a removal spell for this guy. Because if they do, then you're just going to keep attacking them and playing more dudes. And they're going to be way behind. So they have to play dudes. And that's when this guy gets huge and kills them. So it's a total bomb. Don't underestimate him. Battle Rattle Shaman. Meh. 4 mana, I can do better things than this. Let's talk about the other 4 manas I do run actually first. Goblin Ringleader, 4 mana, 2/2 haste. When it enters the battlefield, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Put all Goblin cards revealed this way into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So first off, this guy is amazing. Just a 2/2 haste, not terrible. And once you're running out of cards, which this deck kind of can do, especially since I'm not running the Rummaging Goblins and all that, you can start running out of cards to play. And you get in the situation where, hey man, I want more cards. And that's usually also the time why you do have the 4 mana on the board to play this dude. And then, like, the opponent is like, yes, I survived the Goblin Assault, right? You're like, ah man, finally, Now they're out of cards, I can start doing stuff, I can get to work, and you drop Goblin Ringleader, and you draw 4 goblins. And they just cry in a pillow and rage quit. I mean, this guy is insane. From playing against him, I know this is one of the most annoying cards to play against. Because that's exactly what happens. I'm like, yes, I stabilized, and nope, out comes the Ringleader, and they draw 4 cards. And I'm dead anyway. So, that's one of the most annoying cards to play against, along with Goblin Grenade. Because, like, once they play goblins, you know you're losing, usually. And then, if you start winning that, then you feel like a proper boss. Like, you're like, yes, man. And then, you know, these just so feel bad when they get played against you. Because you're like, oh man, I was winning. I thought I was finally winning. I thought I could win against the Goblin deck, and nope. I was just imagining things. Anyways, great card. But, so there's 2 schools of thinking here. One is that, you know, he's great, and you put him in the deck, and that's the story. And the other thing is that, hey, since this guy only gets you Goblin cards, don't run any non-Goblin cards. And, yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see you not running Voracious Dragon, because you can't get him with Goblin Ringleader. I don't think I would not run Clickslither. And so that's a thing. That is a thing. And especially when you compare Voracious Dragon with Goblin Warstrike. But I guess we'll talk about that when we get to Goblin Warstrike. Or when we get to Voracious Dragon, I guess. Because that's a reason you would want to run Goblin Warstrike instead of Voracious Dragon. Anyway, so then there is a lot of noise going on outside. Sorry, excuse me, can't help it. There's Krenko, which just, yeah, obviously you're on Krenko. He's the boss of this deck, and he's amazing, he's insane, and especially if you drop him after you've already played a Goblin Chieftain, and he has haste, and you can immediately tap his ability, and, you know, you get a billion goblins each turn. It's ridiculous, absolutely. Absolutely ridiculous, and just... yeah. I don't like playing against goblins. Goblin Fire Fiend, 4 cost, 1/1, haste, must be blocked if able, and you can make him bigger. Problem with that is they can just jump block it. Like, he is a haste dude, but the other thing is, like, most of your guys are small anyway, so what do you really want to protect with this? Like, the idea is that they have to block this instead of something else they would really want to block, but the things they would really want to block have trample, so it doesn't matter, like Clickslither. Yeah, you can protect your Goblin Chieftains with it, I guess. But most of your dudes are just as small as this guy. So, like, why isn't it just a Ringleader then? So yeah. Anyways, Goblin Goon is really big for his cost. But he can't attack unless you control more creatures than defending player. He can't block unless you control more creatures than attacking player. Doesn't matter. Usually doesn't matter. You will usually have more creatures than them. Of course, against Peacekeepers or like maybe Collective Might, some decks can have more creatures than you. But usually it really doesn't matter, and this guy is huge. So why am I not running him? Well, because he's just not as big and balmy as Clickslither, Goblin Ringleader, or Krenko. These 4 are just amazing 4-drops, and you gotta run these. And this thing just doesn't cut it in comparison. But he is pretty big. But again, just like the Thunder Trash Elder, it doesn't have trample. So it doesn't really matter how big it is. But sometimes, of course, they're gonna have something huge, and you're gonna need something to get past them. And having a big guy can help there. But usually this isn't the case. Usually it's better to just go with the total small dude overrun style, weenie style deck, I guess. Just go all in on the weenies. That's what I'm saying. Lowland Oath. I think this card is offensive. Anyways, it's a free giant warrior, and it's 4 mana. It does some stuff, but it doesn't really matter. Like, again, I already told you with the Goblin Grenade, giving something flying doesn't really matter in this deck. They're gonna have something to block anyway, so whatever. This can get you in the last bit of damage you need, but then so can Clickslither, so can a lot of other cards, and do it much more consistently. And this guy isn't good on his own. So yeah, and this guy is 4 mana, whereas the other abilities usually are a little bit cheaper or more consistent. So I don't like the card, but I do like the art. It's hilarious, but yeah. He's also not a goblin, so you don't get him with Ringleader. Reckless 1, no need it. Again, big guy. This one does have haste, but meh. If he's gonna be big, then I probably have enough goblins that they can block all of them anyway. So there's that. I don't think he's terrible. I just don't think he's as good as some of the other 4-drops, and I don't think you need him. Relentless Assault. I'd rather have another dude. Yeah, I get it, but there's better cards that do the same thing and more profitably. Like, the only time that you need an effect like this is when the opponent has big enough blockers that you can't get past. And then this card doesn't help. There's other cards that try and kill them, that are like kill you now as well, like Goblin Grenade, that are better than this. So you don't really need this. Mind Boil. What the fuck? What is this doing in here? I don't understand. It doesn't even do anything. Meh. Yeah. Meh. Not that great. I guess you get to pick the best card out of your hand each turn and play that. So I can sort of see it, but it's 5 mana enchantment. No. 6 mana enchantment, I don't even care what this says. If this says all your creatures have trample, double strike, and +6/+6, probably would still not run it because it's 6 mana in this deck. But as it is, it's not really great anyways. Even if you would run a 6 mana cost card. Chancellor of the Forge, interesting, sort of. I mean, if you have this in your opening hand, then it's just as good as a Raging Goblin. And then you have the upside of maybe later getting to 7 mana and playing it. But that's the best case scenario. And even then you usually don't get to that 7 mana before you've either won or lost. And worst case scenario is you draw him the turn after. And like you start the game and then you draw him the first turn, basically, is what I'm saying. That's the worst case scenario. And then you never get to play him. And he sits in your hand being useless. So you don't want that guy. Did I just totally skip these Siege Gang commanders? We'll get to them. Don't worry. Goblin Dynamo, 7 cost, 4/4. Blah. What is this even trying to do? It's 7 mana. Come on. It's not gonna happen. I don't think I've ever seen anyone even play this card, so I think everybody's realized it's horrible. Alright. Or maybe that's because they never got to that 7 mana to play it. Siege Gang Commander is amazing. Yeah, just ridiculous. Again, one of those feel bad cards where they're like, they only have 1 card in their hand, I'm finally gonna stabilize. And then they drop this and they've got 4 goblins and and they can just start sacking dudes. And even if you have the best blockers, doesn't matter because they can just go straight for your life total. Whatever they need to do, it does everything. It does everything they need to do. You could ever dream of. So yeah, ridiculous. Voracious Dragon. So we finally come there. So, alright. The discussion here is Voracious Dragon or Goblin Warstrike. They both serve the same purpose. Goblin Warstrike is cheaper. It's less damage you're dealing. You're not getting a dude. If the damage doesn't finish them off, then you're not getting a dude. But it is cheaper, and you can still attack with those goblins that turn. And then maybe finish them off that way. So it's faster as well. Voracious Dragon. The thing about it is that worst case scenario is what I'm thinking. Like, best case scenario for both cards is pretty much you kill the opponent and that's the end of it. Worst case scenario is you don't really have dudes. then Voracious Dragon is still a 4/4 dragon. You know what I'm saying? And usually you gotta have at least one dude. You can devour that, kill one of their really good creatures. Probably something that's been bugging you for a while, which is why you're in such a bad board state. And you've got a 6/6 dragon on the board, so pretty good. I mean, he can get huge really quickly. So the thing here is, I think the worst case scenario for Voracious Dragon is still better than the worst case scenario for Warstrike. That's why I like Voracious Dragon better. But I can definitely see the argument going either way. So let me just say that. And one thing that is in favor of the Warstrike, or is it? Actually, hold on. Let me check this. Nope. It's not a tribal card. It's not a goblin sorcery or anything like that. So it's not in favor. So actually, I was talking out of my ass when I was talking about the Ringleader and how it could get that card. It can't because it's not a goblin sorcery. And yes, that exists. There are tribal cards that are like race specific, but this is not one of them. So yeah. Alright, so in that case, I definitely think Voracious Dragon is the better pick here. So it is a 5 mana cost card though. And it depends on, you know, how lucky you're getting with the lands, whether you want to run it or not. I think I can fit it in there. So that's my story and I'm sticking to it. This has been the Goblin Gangland deck build. In comparison to other deck builds, it may be pretty short. That's because this deck isn't that hard to build at all. But yeah, it does extremely well. And I'm going to either have a lot of fun playing this in the coming few matches, or I'm just going to be weeping for the sadness of my opponents. Or I'm just going to have some kind of like, I'm going to be feeling ashamed for playing the deck in the first place. I don't know. Luckily, I'm only going to have to do a few videos with it, so. Anyways, we're gonna see it. Hope you enjoyed. I don't know if I did. Nah. I mean, I want to get this done. I want to get this over with. So, my name's been Nemo. My name will still be Nemo. Next time, see you then. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.